Whispers through time, uncovering history's forgotten mysteries, one episode at a time.
Episode 87, The Seance Circle, Spiritism's 19th century revelation.
Good evening, curious minds and seekers of the unknown. I'm Marcus Quillam.
And I'm Jane Beaumont. Welcome to another journey through the shadowed corridors of history on Whispers Through Time.
Tonight, we venture into the dimly lit parlors of the 19th century, where the veil between worlds grew thin, and the voices of the dead, or so many believed, could be heard through the whispers of mediums and the mysterious raps upon wooden tables.
That's right, Marcus. We're exploring the fascinating world of Spiritism, a movement that captivated millions during an age of scientific revolution and rapid change. Before we begin our journey through this mysterious realm, we'd like to invite our listeners to share their appreciation by leaving a comment or subscribing to our channel.
Yes, your support truly helps our spectral voices reach more curious minds. And we do love hearing your thoughts on these historical enigmas.
Now let me transport you to a humble farmhouse in Hydesville, New York, in the cold March of 1848. Two young sisters, Kate and Margaret Fox, has been troubled by mysterious knockings in their bedroom walls. One night, young Kate boldly calls out, "Mr. Splitfoot, do as I do," clapping her hands several times.
And to the astonishment of all present, the exact number of raps echoed back through the darkness. A simple event that would ignite a spiritual wildfire across America and Europe.
The Fox sisters claimed they could communicate with the spirit of a murdered peddler buried beneath their home. This sensational claim would launch what many consider the birth of modern Spiritism.
Indeed. But to understand why this movement gained such extraordinary momentum, we must first examine the world in which it emerged. A world undergoing unprecedented transformation.
The Industrial Revolution was in full swing. Steam engines were reshaping transportation, and scientific discoveries were challenging ancient beliefs. Death itself was changing, becoming more clinical, more distant from daily life.
Precisely. The 19th century witnessed a fascinating paradox. As science advanced, revealing the material mechanisms of our world, there emerged a powerful countercurrent, a yearning for something beyond the merely physical.
It's almost as if the more science explained, the more people craved mystery. The more rational the world became, the more they sought connection with the ineffable.
Quite so. And into this tension stepped Spiritism, offering what appeared to be empirical evidence of the afterlife, not through faith alone, but through observable phenomena. Tables that moved, raps that answered questions, and mediums who channeled the voices of the departed.
Let's delve deeper into how this movement spread so rapidly after the Fox sisters' initial experience. Their demonstrations drew massive crowds, and soon mediumship became something of a profession. People, particularly women, discovered they too could channel spirits.
The movement crossed the Atlantic with remarkable speed. In France, a former educator named Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail encountered the phenomenon and was utterly transformed by it. Taking the pseudonym Allan Kardec, he published the Spirits Book in 1857, a systematic codification of Spiritist philosophy.
Kardec's approach was quite different from the more spontaneous American version, wasn't it? He emphasized reincarnation and spiritual evolution through successive lives, ideas that found particular resonance in Latin America.
Indeed. While American Spiritism often focused on proof of survival and messages from departed loved ones, Kardec's European variant constructed an entire philosophical system one that continues to thrive in Brazil to this day, where Spiritist hospitals and centers blend healing practices with spiritual guidance.
What I find fascinating is how many prominent figures were drawn to this movement. Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of the ultra-rational Sherlock Holmes, became one of Spiritism's most passionate advocates.
Even the co-discoverer of evolution, Alfred Russel Wallace, was convinced by what he witnessed in seances. And William James, the father of American psychology, spent years investigating mediums through the Society for Psychical Research.
Speaking of seances, Marcus, let's paint a picture for our listeners of what these mysterious gatherings were actually like.
Picture, if you will, a Victorian parlor at nightfall. Heavy curtains drawn against the street lamps outside. A group of sitters, perhaps 8 or 10, gathered around a wooden table. Candles cast long shadows across wallpapered walls. The medium, often a woman dressed in dark clothing, takes her place.
The participants join hands, forming what they called a circle of harmony. The room grows quiet, except for perhaps a soft ticking clock. The medium begins to breathe deeply, entering a trance state. The air feels charged with anticipation.
And then the phenomena begin. Perhaps it starts with a gentle rapping sound from within the table, or the table itself might tremble, then tilt, perhaps even levitate. Some sitters report feeling cold breezes or the touch of invisible hands.
In more dramatic seances, objects might move across the room. Spirit trumpets, cone-shaped devices, would float in the darkness, amplifying whispered messages from beyond. And in the most extraordinary cases, ectoplasm, a mysterious substance, would emerge from the medium's body, sometimes forming into ghostly shapes.
The methods of communication were diverse. Some mediums practiced automatic writing, their hands moving seemingly of their own accord to transcribe messages. Others fell into deep trances, their voices changing as spirits allegedly spoke through them.
And let's not forget spirit photography, a controversial practice where photographers clinged to capture images of spirits alongside the living. These ghostly portraits became prized possessions, offering what many believed to be visual proof of survival beyond death.
Of course, this brings us to the complex question of authenticity. Was it all genuine communication with the departed, or elaborate deception? The answer, as with most historical phenomena, lies somewhere in the shadows between.
The movement certainly attracted its share of frauds and charlatans. Some mediums used hidden wires to move objects, confederates to produce spirit voices, or chemicals to create ghostly illuminations. The famous escape artist Harry Houdini made it his mission to expose such trickery.
Houdini attended seances in disguise, revealing how easily certain effects could be produced through sleight of hand and clever preparation. His exposés damaged the credibility of professional mediumship, though many sincere believers remained undeterred.
What's fascinating is that even when mediums were caught in blatant fraud, many of their followers continued to believe. The emotional comfort of communication with departed loved ones was simply too powerful to relinquish.
And we must acknowledge that not all phenomena were so easily explained away. Some investigations by skeptical researchers yielded puzzling results. Unexplained movements, accurate information the medium couldn't possibly have known through ordinary means.
This brings us to our Beyond the Veil segment, where we explore a particularly intriguing aspect of historical mysteries. Tonight, we're focusing on the medium's empowerment, how Spiritism offered women unprecedented public voices in an age of strict gender constraints.
This is perhaps one of the most overlooked aspects of the movement. In an era when women were largely excluded from public discourse, relegated to domestic spheres, and denied basic rights, the seance room became a rare space of female authority.
Exactly. As mediums, women could speak on politics, science, philosophy, subjects normally forbidden to them. Because, technically, it wasn't them speaking at all, but the spirits working through them.
The renowned medium Cora L.V. Scott, later Richmond, delivered thousands of trance lectures on complex theological and philosophical subjects, despite having little formal education. Audiences of distinguished men listened raptly as this young woman expounded on cosmic mysteries.
And Emma Hargen Britton, originally an actress, became one of the movement's most eloquent advocates, writing histories of Spiritism and delivering powerful speeches across America and Britain. Through mediumship, she achieved a public platform that would have been unthinkable for most Victorian women.
The seance room itself disrupted social hierarchies. People of different classes and genders sat together in darkened rooms, holding hands, a radical form of physical contact in the strictly regulated Victorian society.
Some historians have suggested that the trance state offered women a rare opportunity to express themselves freely. In the guise of channeling spirits, they could voice opinions, display anger, or exhibit knowledge that would have been deemed inappropriate coming directly from a woman.
It's a fascinating paradox. To gain a voice, these women had to claim they were speaking with someone else's. Yet many use this platform to advocate for women's rights, abolition, and social reforms.
The famous Fox sisters themselves experienced this double-edged sword of fame and scrutiny. Their initial claims brought them unprecedented attention, but also placed them under enormous pressure to produce phenomena on demand.
And their story ended rather tragically. In 1888, Margaret Fox confessed that the sisters had produced the mysterious rappings by cracking their toe joints against the floor, a skill they developed to extraordinary precision. She later recanted this confession, but the damage was done.
Yet even this revelation couldn't extinguish the movement they'd sparked. By then, Spiritism had evolved far beyond the simple rappings in Hydesville, developing complex philosophies and practices that continued well into the 20th century.
The movement's decline in the West came gradually. The horrors of World War I shook faith in spiritual progress. The rise of psychoanalysis offered new explanations for supernatural experiences, and repeated exposures of fraud eroded public trust.
But as we mentioned earlier, in Brazil and other parts of Latin America, Kardec's Spiritism flourished, blending with local traditions and Catholic practices to create a unique spiritual approach that continues to this day.
And even in the West, the legacy of 19th century Spiritism lives on in modern ghost hunting, electronic voice phenomena research, and various New Age practices. The tools have changed, spirit trumpets giving way to EMF detectors and digital recorders, but the fundamental quest remains the same.
The desire to communicate with those who have passed beyond the veil. To receive assurance that consciousness survives bodily death.
Modern scholars have begun reappraising Spiritism not merely as a curious footnote or collective delusion, but as a significant cultural response to modernity, one that challenged the growing materialism of the age and insisted on the reality of unseen dimensions.
Before we wrap up tonight's spectral journey, let's address a fascinating question from listener Eliza in Portland about spirit photography. She asks, were there any spirit photographs that were never debunked or explained away?
An excellent question, Eliza. While most spirit photographs have been explained through double exposure, manipulation of negatives, or other photographic tricks, a few remain genuinely puzzling. The photographs taken by William Mumler in the 1860s, particularly his famous image of Mary Todd Lincoln with the apparent spirit of her husband Abraham standing behind her, continue to intrigue researchers.
Oh, Mumler was later tried for fraud. Not all his methods were conclusively exposed. Some of his subjects claimed they arrived unannounced at his studio and received images of departed loved ones, whom Mumler could not possibly have known about.
The spiritualist photographer William Hope, part of the Crew Circle in England, produced some images that even skeptical investigators found difficult to explain. Though many of his photographs were likely fraudulent, a few cases remain ambiguous.
What's particularly interesting is how these images, whether genuine or not, provided profound emotional comfort. In an age before voice recordings and video, photographs were precious connections to the deceased. Spirit photography offered something even more powerful: the suggestion that the departed remained present, watching over their loved ones.
Thank you for that thoughtful question, Eliza. And to all our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this journey into the mysterious world of 19th century Spiritism.
Next week, we'll be venturing even further back in time to explore another enduring mystery: the lost colony of Roanoke. What happened to those 115 English settlers who vanished without a trace from North Carolina's Outer Banks in the late 1580s?
Until then, keep your minds open to the whispers of the past. And perhaps, if you listen carefully in the quiet hours, you might hear the faint rappings of history's mysteries calling out to be discovered.
This has been Whispers Through Time. I'm Jane Beaumont.
And I'm Marcus Quillam. Remember, the past is never truly silent if you know how to listen.